guys, today I have a very long overdue Pan That Palette update for you guys. Project panning and Pan That Palette just hasn't really gone my way this year. It's just been a strange one with my final year of uni deadlines and exhibitions, and then I was away and I was reunited with all my makeup again when I moved back home. So yeah, project panning has just gone out the window over the summer months. So I know we've only got a couple of months left of the year, but I really want to focus and see what progress we can make in what little time we have left of 2018. If you watched my Pan That Palette intro for this year, you would have known that I had put together some shadows that were depotted from some palettes, or that were just single eyeshadows into a small Z palette, and I wanted to work on them throughout the year. And I had set different goals of whether to use shades up, hit pan on certain shades, or just make some progress on other shades in this palette. I definitely didn't make as much progress as I thought I would have done, which is quite disappointing, but nonetheless I'm still pleased. First of all, I'm just going to insert a little picture of what it looked like at the beginning of the year. And this is what the palette looks like now. Made a little bit of progress, but not as much as I would have liked. So I'm just going to go through the shades one by one in a little bit more detail and tell you where I got to with them. So at the top I have my single eyeshadows from MAC. First shade is Shroom, and I wanted to use this all up and I didn't even manage to hit pan on it. This shade is so densely packed. I did manage to get a little bit of a dip going on near the edge. The next one is All That Glitters. Again, I wanted to use this up and I managed to hit pan on it quite quickly, and I do have a decent amount of side pan, but there's still quite a bit of product left in here. And then again, the same with Woodwinked. I wanted to use it up. I've managed to get a decent amount of pan going on and a little bit of side pan as well. These two are actually quite difficult to use now because the pans just spin around in this palette. I'm definitely going to repress these shades now that I've finally updated you guys on this palette, and then it should be easy to start using those two shades again. The last MAC shadow in this palette is right here, and this is called Satin Taupe. I wanted to hit pan on this shade, and as you can quite clearly see, that didn't happen. Now on to some goals that I actually managed to meet, and that is with these two Bobbi Brown shades down here in the shades Bone and Frappe, and they were both matte shades from the Bobbi Brown Rich Chocolate Eye Palette. They were an everyday staple for me, so it didn't take too long to use those guys up. For the next two shades, which I believe are called Stone and Cocoa, I wanted to hit pan on that. I didn't manage to do that, but honestly I barely reached for these shades. And then the last shade, I think it's called Rich Chocolate, I wanted to hit pan, and there is the tiniest bit of pan right in the corner. These two were from the Marc Jacobs Lilies palette, and they came in as replacements once I used up the matte white and transition shade from Bobbi Brown. And as you can see, or not be able to see, I do have a little bit of pan on the Marc Jacobs transition shade, which is very exciting. Unfortunately, I didn't quite manage to hit pan on the cream one. There is a very big dip in there though, so I reckon if I keep using it, I could definitely hit pan on that by the end of the year. This was my first attempt at panning MAC eyeshadows, and the difference in the formula and how tightly they are pressed is crazy. I don't know if anyone else remembers, but I was also doing a 4-month one palette, which again ended up being a massive fail. The first 4 months were a success with the Lorac Pro palette. I said that I wanted to hit pan on 4 eyeshadows, and at the beginning of the year this palette weighed 128 grams. After the first month I managed to hit pan on 3 eyeshadows, so considering I was planning on using this palette for an additional 3 months, I thought, right, let's try and hit pan on 8 eyeshadows. So I'm quickly going to insert a before, and this is what the palette looks like now. So I managed to hit pan on the 8 eyeshadows pretty easily. I even have a little bit of side pan on the shade Light Bronze. So after having pan on 8 eyeshadows, this palette now weighs 126 grams. I'm really pleased with the progress I made. If I use this palette for longer, I definitely think I could have hit pan on the other shades. This is such an easy formula to hit pan on. For me personally, I felt like I got my money's worth out of this palette. It isn't a favourite palette of mine. I know people used to rave about this. I'm not particularly a fan of the formula. I find it disappears on my eyes, and I just feel like somebody else could still appreciate this palette and show this palette a lot more love than I already have. Yeah, I'm definitely ready to move this palette out of my collection. Originally, I thought about using my Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette from May to August, just to get a little bit of use out of that palette, as it is still relatively brand new to me, but I just wasn't feeling it when it came round to it. I had my Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette with me at uni, and I thought, right, let's pan this instead. And then before I knew it, I was moved home. I was reunited with all of my makeup again, you know, all my eyeshadow palettes. And I just thought, right, I just want to enjoy, you know, mixing it up day by day. And I thought, right, come September, we will pick a palette and kind of focus in on it a little bit more. And then anyway, before I knew it, September has kind of gone, and then now it's November the 7th or something like that. So are you ready for my pan that palette for the last couple of months of 2018? Because I am actually panning 2 palettes, which is pretty crazy, but I'll explain my goals for each palette. You know, I'm only working on particular shades, so this is what my Modern Renaissance palette looks like. I don't know if you can see, but I have one pan on the shade Primavera, and this is my favourite gold eyeshadow ever. It's absolutely beautiful. Annoyingly, I only hit pan on this shade in October, so if I had sorted my life out and filmed this video in September when I was supposed to, then you would have seen me hit pan on this shade, which is pretty annoying. But yeah, so that is a recent pan, which is quite exciting, and the first pan in this palette. So the shades that I am going to be focusing on this palette are the matte ones to pair with some of the shimmer shades from the Naked 2 palette. So in particular, I really want to hit pan on Tempera and Golden Ochre. Both have a very big dip in, and I think possibly by the end of this week I could hit pan on them, which is why I was so desperate to film this video. But I also want to work on Raw Sienna, Burnt Orange, Red Ochre, and probably the pinks as well. I kind of rotate between Red Ochre and the pinks. And then Cypress Umber actually has a little bit of a dip going on from when I've used a angled brush, so I think it could be possible to actually hit pan on this shade as well. I really like it, so I want to have lots of progress on this palette. As for my Naked 2 palette, it looks like this. So there is currently no pans in this palette, but I'm hoping by the end of the year I might possibly have pan in 2 shadows, which I'm hoping isn't too, you know, ambitious. I think it's pretty reasonable. There is quite a big dip already in the shade Suspect, so that is possibly one of the shades that I want to hit pan on. And I'm thinking about the other one being Chopper. Again, I have this one on my eyes paired with the Modern Renaissance palette today. I think it looks really lovely. And then I've got 2 other shades that I'm going to work on as well. So we've also got Half Baked and then YDK as well. I'm really excited to try and hit pan on some of these shimmer shades. I think they'll work really lovely with the other palette. I'm also thinking about mixing, you know, some of these 4 shades together in one of the empty pans I have out of my Z palette now, and make a Franken shadow. I think that will help get through some of the shades a little bit quicker as well. I originally planned to finish this project before Christmas, but since restarting this pan that palette quite late on in the year, I think it will be going all the way up until after Christmas. I'm hoping it will be a success. I feel like a bit of a failure in terms of project panning this year, and my channel as well. So definitely make sure you are subscribed to see the final outcome of these palettes, and I'll see you guys in my next video.